Today we are going to review mixed number, decimal numbers, and fractions. The first stuff is to define mixed numbers. Mixed numbers are a form to represent improper fractions. They have three parts. The first part, that is represented by a big number, it's the wholes, integer number, and it also has another part that it's a normal fraction with a numerator and a denominator. This fraction represented by B and C must be always a proper fraction. Why? Because if it's an improper fraction, that means that we can make another whole integer number from this fraction. So this fraction, remember, needs to be always a proper fraction. One example of a mixed number can be 5 wholes and 1/3. That means that we have 5 wholes or integers and 1/3 or 1 part out of 3 of another full part. The next stuff we are going to review is how to change from an improper fraction to a mixed number. It's very easy. Remember that a fraction is also a division. So if we make the division, we can change from an improper fraction to a mixed number. How do we do it? Let's see. On the first example, we have 7/3. So that can be represented also as 7 divided by 3. If we make the division, that means we need to multiply 3 times 2. That gives us 6. If we make the subtraction, it's going to have 1 remaining. So we can represent this improper fraction as a mixed number. How? We say we have two whole numbers, the remainder 1/3. So 7/3 is the same as 2 wholes and 1/3. So this is the way how we change from an improper fraction to a mixed number. Let's see another example. If we have 11 halves, we can divide 11 by 2. We need 5 times. 5 multiplied by 2, it's 10. The subtraction gives us 1. So if we want to represent this as a mixed number, we will have 5 whole numbers one half. So we can say that 11 halves is the same as 5 wholes and 1/2. Let's see another example. If we have 77/3, what we need to do is we need to make the division. 77 divided by 3. That means 1 here. 17. That means 5 here. That gives us 15, and we have a 2 as a remainder. So if we want to represent this as an improper fraction, it's going to be 15 wholes and 2/3. So we can say that it's the same to have 77/3 or 15 wholes and 2/3. This is the way of how we change from improper fraction to mixed numbers. Let's see now the opposite, how to change from a mixed number to an improper fraction. It's a similar operation or a similar process we need to make. We need to multiply the denominator for the whole part, and we need to add the numerator. That means if we multiply 5 times 3, it gives us 15 plus 2. That means it will give us 17, and it will remain to have the same denominator, 17 fifths. So that means that 3 wholes and 2 fives or 2 fifths is the same that 17 fifths. Let's see another example. So we need to multiply denominator by the whole. Remember, multiply and then add the numerator. That means 7 times 3 give us 21 plus the numerator 1 give us 22, and the denominator keeps the same, 22/3. That means that 7 wholes 1/3 can be represented as 22/3. Let's see a final example. It's the same. If we have big numbers, it's the same. We need to multiply 7 times 13. That will give us 91. So 91 plus the numerator, that will give us 96. And remember that we don't change the denominator. That will give us 96/7. We could represent 13 wholes 5/7 as 96/7. So this is the form how to change from a mixed number to an improper fraction. Let's review now how to change from fractions to decimal numbers. We will only see some decimal numbers. We are not going to see periodical ones. We are going to see only when the answer gives us an exact answer, not a periodical one. So the first example we are going to see is 3/4. To make 3/4 a decimal number, we need to make the division. So the first stuff, we can represent 3/4 like 3 divided by 4. That means that this will have a 0 because it's a proper fraction. We need to put a 0 here, and then 4 or 30 divided by 4, that means 7. 7 times 4 is 28. It will give us a 2. We can continue. We can put a 0. So 5 times 4 is 20. Give us 0. So 3/4 can be also represented as 0.75. So this is the form that we change a fraction to a decimal number. Let's see another example. 2 divided by 5. That means it's also a proper fraction. It will be 0. 4 times 5 it's 20, that gives us 0. So we have finished. So 2/5 can be also represented as 0.4. Another example, letter C. First, we need to see if the fraction can be simplified. So this fraction, as we saw in the last class, can be simplified because it can be divided by 2. So we can represent it as 3/8. So we can make the division. 3 divided by 8 is also a proper fraction. So it's going to give us a 0. We can put a 0 here. 3 times 8 give us 24. That will give us 6. As a reminder, we can put another 0. We will see like 7 times 8 will give us 56. That will give us 4. As a reminder, we can put another 0. 5 times 8 is 40. That will give us 0. So we have finished. So we can represent 6/16 as 3/8 and also as 0.375. So this is the form that we change from fractions to decimal numbers. We will see also 1 or 2 examples with improper fractions, which is the same, but we are going to see 2 examples with improper fractions. As we said, we are going to make these 2 examples with improper fractions. It's the same. We need to represent the fraction as a division, 17 divided by 5. But this time we will not get a 0. We will get a 3. 5 times 3 is 15. That will give us a 2 as a reminder. And now we are going to put a 0. We are going to continue the division. So we need here a 4. That will give us 20. And that will give us 0 as a reminder. That means that this fraction, 17/5, can be represented as 3.4 as a decimal number. And the last one, 19 divided by 4, that means 4 by 4 give us 16. It will give us a 3. So we can continue putting a 0. So 4 times 7 will give us 28. That will give us a 2. We can continue putting a 0. So 5 times 4 gives us a 20. And when we have the remainder 0, that will be the end. So 19/4 can be also represented as 4.75. So this is the way that we change from fractions to decimal numbers. The last thing we are going to see today is how to change from decimal numbers to fractions. Let's see 3 exercises of how to change from decimal numbers to fractions. We can represent a decimal number as a fraction if we divide it by 1. So what we need to do to make this a fraction with no decimal numbers, we need to move this point to the right 1 spot. That means we are multiplying it by 10. So we need to add a 0 in the bottom part. So we can represent this as 8/10. And then we can simplify this fraction. We can divide it by 2 and by 2. That will get us 4/5. So that's the way from changing from a decimal number to a fraction. We can say that 0.8 is the same as 4/5. Let us see another example. If we have 0.75 divided by 1, that means we are going to move the point 2 spots, so it will give us 75 over 100 because we move the 0 2 spots. So we can divide this and simplify it. If we divide it by 5 and by 5, that will give us a 20 here, and of the top part it will give us 1/15. We can continue dividing it by 5 or 5/5. It will give us 3/4, and then this is the most simplified fraction, so we can say that 0.75 is the same as 3/4. Let's see another example. If we have 0.125, we can represent it divided by 1. That means we are going to move the point 3 spaces, so we can represent this as 125 over 1000. We can divide this by 5 or by 5. That will give us 200, and in the top part it will give us 25. We can also divide this by 5. That will give us 5 on the top part, 40 in the bottom part, and we can also divide it now by 5. That will give us 1/8. That this is the most simplified fractions, so we can say that 0.125 it's the same as 1/8. So this is the form of how we change from decimal numbers to fractions. I will do only one more example of an improper fraction converted to decimal, a decimal number converted to an improper fraction. Let's see this case. If we have 3.25, that means it's divided by 1 to represent it as a fraction. If we move the point 2 spots, that means we will have 325 over 100. Remember, if it's a whole number, it will give us an improper fraction. So we need to simplify it. We can divide by 5th and by 5th. That will give us 20 here, and on the top part it will give us 65. We can also divide this by 5. That will give us 4 in the bottom part, and 65 divided by 5 will give us 13. So this is the most simplified fraction, so 3.25 is the same as 13/4. So this is the form that we can change from decimal numbers to fractions on improper ones. It's the same as improper ones, so the process don't change. The only thing is that we are going to have an improper fraction as a result and not a proper one. So this is the information you need in order to make activity number 4, that it's due to Friday. So please do it and upload it on Friday.